Yes, I sometimes have a problem finding the hole. I am only human. Hello. And this time on CrashTestDummyTV. Alright, I'm going to have to pull this thing apart again because it's still rattling. Sounds nasty. Now, I'm going to drop the diff oil first because I don't want it to dribble anywhere, plus it's been a long time since I've changed it. Actually, I've never changed it. As you can see, the elaborate way I've done my pans, just so it doesn't dribble all over the tyre. That's black. There's not a lot in there too. Every now and then dropping dribble by dribble. Oh, I can feel metal filings in there. Bolts, not all the time, but they'll have this little magnetic tip. That's crud. Ugh, that's horrid. That little tip there. Just a bit of magnetic tip they put in to catch all the metal bits. I'll let this keep on draining and pull the back wheel off, get everything disassembled, and then I'll pick up there. Show you the internals again if you haven't already seen them. That's not a lot of oil, although the oil it's only that bottom bit there, just a tiny bit, but still. Every time I've taken this rim off, there's a bit of a dribble. So all those dribbles accumulate to a certain amount of oil, so I don't trust it. Advantage of this angled pan, you can see what sort of sediment's running down. You see that line of crap. Nothing big or anything's come out, so that's a good thing. Anyway, I'm going to pull this to bits and I'll pick up then. Groovy. Alright, back, everything's off and it's all pulled to bits. Now, the spacers, they were okay, they were sitting there. Now, when you get to this section, don't do what I did and start trying to unbolt it all. It's just a cush drive. It will pull out quite easily, and as you see, the bolts, the studs, however it is, they hold it into the rubber mounting, and when you take off, there's a bit of a cushioning effect with the rubber. Forgot the word there for a minute. Anyway, so that's what that is. Now I think I have solved the problem. Notice anything different about this? Yes, you guessed it. There's one bolt that's snapped off. I think my bike's too powerful. So what it is, in my opinion, it's the bloody bolt head that's gone through. So I'm going to try and liberate it through the hole. I don't know if I can, but we'll see how we go. Where is it? I know it's there somewhere. I don't know how I'll get those rubbers out. Right, get it down the bottom. I could pop the bearing, perhaps. If I pop the bearing, the center will come out and everything will come apart. But if I punch the bearing out, I'd want to rechange it, put a new one in there, purely because just in case it does damage whilst pulling it out. Alright, I've got to figure something out here. I will get back to you, give you an update. Well, I'll get back to you in a minute.
24 hours later.
Now I've got new bolts because what has happened, this bolt here snapped off right at the base of the nut, and that's what's rattling around inside my rim. Now there was a comment on the last video as far as the baby rattle video, and I called him up and told him he was a bastard because he did the spoiler alert. Yes, no, he dropped in. He actually brought me around a hell of a lot of helmets, like 5 or 6 helmets to put on my wall. I don't have an array. It's a pity I didn't get the visor with it, Mr. Combi. But yeah, there's going to be more helmets hanging. This is brand spanking new. It's never been used apparently. Now the date is 2009, manufacturer, but this has never touched the ground. That's just a bit of crap on top. Never been used. You know, it's not bad actually. It's actually slightly smaller than the one I'm wearing, so I might even have a look at wearing it myself. But anyway, but no, it's yeah. I've got heaps more helmets. Anyway, that was Mr. Combi. Dietlif. I just went and checked Google for the pronunciation. Dietlif Moller. There you go. It's uncovered. You did place a comment in regards to, oh, the GPZ's covered. But no, I've uncovered it for you. I just tend to cover my bikes when I'm not using them or not working on them. If they're in storage, it just keeps the bulk of the dust off them. You don't have to clean them as much. Yeah, but you do have to take it off every now and then if your garage is one that might have condensation in it, just in case. Back to this. Now, after I clear my throat, no, what I've done is I've bought 6 bolts. Now they are exactly the same. They're a high tensile bolt, but after 5 or 6 years of dropping the clutch and giving it the berries, I've only snapped 1 bolt, so I'm going to stick with it. But in the meantime, I am going to check, but I've been told that this is 12mm. I'm going to drop into a machinist and see if he can make me some... Oh, pardon me. I'm going to drop into a machinist and see if he can make me some pins. Purely because they should be pins. I'm going to put the schematic up on the screen for the Virago and for the Vmax. Now when it comes to this drive plate, they are different. They've got different heights and they have different ways that they actually go in. The Vmax, as you see, is more like a 6-finger plate, whereas this Virago one is a circular plate. Now the heights are different, and for all you people interested in doing the conversion from Virago rims onto Vmax, this is one of the most important things. You have to change this. So get a hold of a Virago one. You probably should have it. It will fit, it will work with the Vmax rim. Now that's why I've got these bolts. These bolts sit in to the push drive. When it does, got to find the holes. Yes, I sometimes have a problem finding the hole. I am only human. Anyway, right, that's in. Now, yeah, for this drive to work, it's got to have these the pins in the Vmax, or the Virago version is those rubber cush bits, or the rubber blocks. They, on the Virago, have a thread poking out, which goes through that, and you bolt it. Now, on the... I think I may have actually drilled those out, so because the Virago is a 10mm bolt, whereas the Vmax is a 12mm pin. So I know these bolts are they're 8.8 M and B on the bolt heads, but apparently they're a 12mm bolt, but they've got an 8.8 as their part number, or whatever the guy said. It is a metric thread. So just to make yours work, this will work, but just be cautious, because down the line you're going to want to put pins in this rather than bolts. Bolts, obviously, you know, you've got 2 mil either side almost, or a mil either side, 2 mil overall thinner, so it's only a 10 mil in the end. Okay, it's around about the engineering force that it was allowed for with the Virago, but as Daniel at First Class Motorcycles mentioned, he wouldn't have done it this way. He doesn't like it, only because obviously the threaded side of things, you got the potential to crack in between every thread. So that's why his thoughts were go to a machinist. He actually made the suggestion to go to a machinist and get them to make some pins that you can punch in. God, I hate ads. Good, go away. Yeah, so First Class Motorcycles, yeah, I'm not putting their name to this job, but they certainly advised me otherwise, to do it differently. Now, so the problem is solved. My baby Rattle is not a baby Rattle anymore, because it's a bolt head that fell down through that hole after it snapped, and it's now rattling around on the inside. Now, the only way I can get that out is to punch that bearing out, which will take the shaft out from the inside in between the two bearings, and then I'll be able to rattle that bolt head out. So yeah, that's down the track something you really don't want to have to do, because it's a pain in the bum. Now, I should be changing my bearings at the same time, but I'm going to try and reuse that bearing. It does feel very nice. There's no crunch or anything like that. There's no slop or wobble. I'm pretty sure it was a new one when I put it in. There's probably a video there of me doing the wheel bearings. But yeah, I'm going to risk it, punch it out, punch it back in, and hopefully it will work. Now, obviously the way you do that on motorbikes, if you haven't seen any videos already, you've got the bearing that you do in the opposite side, screwdriver, or preferably something cylindrical like that, but it's got to have an edge. I wouldn't use your favourite extension bar, because you're going to burr the end and you won't be able to get your ratchet in there, because I've got a couple of those which I did it to. Sometimes I will use a screwdriver, purely because you can get the edge on there. But down from the other side, bang bang, bang bang, bang bang. Make sure you work it around like that, so that way you're evenly rolling that bearing out, so to say. You know, you're rolling it around as you're punching it out. But I won't show you that. I've told you all about it. So what I'll do is next swap the bolts over. What I am going to do, because they're not a locking thread or locking nut, so to say, so what I'm going to do is put a bit of Loctite on there. That's actually the snapped one there. Actually, I'll pull that out. I showed you it on the other video, or this video, but yeah, that's the snapped off bit, and it was right, the nut finished right there, so it snapped just above the nut. So realistically, you want to use pins. And looking at it very closely, I'm trying to work out whether it's been sheared off, twisted off, bent off. There's a line in there, but there's also a bit of dirt. Trouble is, I've had my fingers, so it's not 100%. I think that's over time, and that's why I'm replacing every bolt, not just one. Has been 5-6 years maybe. Oh, this is going to work better. Alright, well, I'll replace all these 6 bolts and I'll come back to you. Leave a little bit of gap just so you can get your Loctite on. Cool. Now I'm going to keep on going with this. I'll do the bolts and I'll punch the bearing out, and I'll come back to you in 3, 2, 1. Fingers are wrong. In 3, 2, 1, now. Alright, now all the bolts are on and that's all rock solid and tight. As far as what torque, I wouldn't have a clue, but I've done my usual nip it up tight, do a quarter turn, and then probably an eighth to a quarter turn again. You really have to be careful with bolts because the nut will jump a thread. That's usually the most common thing. But yeah, that's all done. Now with the Loctite, what I did on this side, on the bolt head side, left it about a quarter of an inch or 10 mil open. Got my Loctite, squeezed it in there, and then tightened it up the rest. That'll save you, well, I mean, you can do it on this side too, but anyway, that'll save you putting, having Loctite run all the way down if you do put it in the nut. But I'm sure you know how to use Loctite. Now, the bearing I've already popped, and I had to punch in and if you can see it, I had to punch in the shaft a little bit, just to allow some space because it wouldn't drop out. I'm pretty sure it holds on one way or another anyway, so I'll have to punch that other bearing back in as well. But had a little fish around and look what I found. One bolt head that's snapped. Now looking at that, it's got a ridge, so I reckon that's sheared off, it's snapped off, but see, none of those move, so I don't know what's happened there. But anyway, you might have to change your bolts every 4 to 6 years. Now I'm going to get my hands dirty because I've got to take that dust seal off before I put the bearing on properly, and obviously getting a ratchet or a socket or something as wide as the outer edge of the bearing, as in the outside edge of the bearing, the biggest diameter. Otherwise, if you punch the middle, you're affecting the bearings itself and the case, the bearing case. So yeah, you want to do that from the outside, the outside ring. You'll see what I mean on the bearing. Yes, I'll just put all this back together. And yes, it will run again, mothership. And yes, I'll put it all together and bring you up to speed after that. Maybe I might involve you putting everything back together. Groovy. See you in a bit. Cool. 3RRR Tuesday nights, heavy metal night. 10 o'clock onwards, I think. Anyway, before I put this back together, I've wiped off all the older grease, only wiped it off. Now what I'm using here is just something out the cupboard. Most grease is fine. Disc brake wheel bearings, boat trailers, transport, industry, constant velocity joints, motorcycles, chains, farming, marine, four-wheel driving, check all those things out. But this grease is fine for most applications. Now I am going to slop a bit on the spline, a little bit down the tube, but only a little bit, don't really need anything in there. Centrifugal force will take everything around. I might put a little bit in there just to hold the spacer on. Before I do that, one of the other, talking to Max Two Wheels, one of the other, this is the main bit that I did, the spacer. Now that's, I believe, the standard spacer, lives down there. This one was just a steel tube, just a, offcut from a steel tube. Diameter, not sure. Whatever the standard one is, it's the same as that. So try and get just a piece of offcut from the local steel shop. A lot of the time they do have offcuts. If not, if they have to cut it for you, they'll probably charge cutting, but they probably wouldn't even charge you for this much. Anyway, that sits there against that bearing. If it was just the Virago, I think it was, well, it was a different size. So to do the conversion here, it's got to be that little bit there. And I know this is it. This is my work because the scratches on it, the grind marks, and the fact that the face is slightly crooked on both sides. But that's fine. It's just a spacer. Now, well, basically a pressure spacer. So when you do tighten everything up, it's not putting pressure on the bearings as much because it's all in the center. Anyway, there's a few people out there that actually were curious in regards to their Virago that they have doing this conversion. So I have to make sure that they are catered for. You don't need a great deal, just enough to get on the spline. Okay, and get rid of the excess. You'll definitely have to wash the rear rim especially, or the bike. Pays to wash your bike, mainly because oh, don't forget my spacer. Get it out. The disc on the other side might have grease prints on it, so you don't want to stuff that up. Now you're probably better off doing this that way, so you don't lose everything. Oh, come on. Jeez, it's heavy. Definitely have to wash this. Grubby mitts all over it. Alright. And it turns around. Amazing. Now, it's time to go back on the bike. Okay, that is Vmax to Virago. Vmax rim, Virago diff. I think it's Virago diff. I don't think any of the Vmaxes had a polished, shiny, chromy diff. So, cool. Awesome stuff. I will pause for a little bit. I might put the camera on wide angle, yeah, on a stand to put the wheel on. So give me a minute to set up. Well, through the magic of editing, give me a millisecond to set up and you'll see it now. Just before I did the put the wheel on, I wanted to point this out. I started organising. Now, there's a vlogger in Tasmania, very organised. Whenever he does a project or a little thing or whatever, he's got everything set out there ready to show you what you need. Very impressed with a lot of his videos. He's got a series on oh god, I can't remember what he's called, his Virago, but anyway, it's 250 Virago he's doing up for his missus, his partner, I think wife. Sorry I ride, but yes, it's I Ride Tasmania. Check his videos out. Very organised, very organised. Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, 1 backwards, no, 2 thumbs up. There you go, groovy. Anyway, I'm going to put the back wheel on now. Cool. Alright, just got to put the cotter pin in. Yeah, it's a bit small, that one. Split pin, cotter pin, whatever you want to call it. Try a bigger one, but I doubt it. Nah. The next one down is the one I had. You can keep your torque wrench. I've never had a problem with mine or any other bike, car, mower, anything I've done up this way. Cool. Now, last but not least, I've got to fill the diff oil up, and then we're done. Now, trick to any diff, car or bike, take your, I hope I've got the right spanner here. Yes, I do. Take your filler, or inspection cover, level tester, whatever you want to call it. Pull it out, and if you can get your finger in there, basically that's the level. Now I'm using Penrite Hypoid, if it's good enough for my four drive diff, front diff, it's good enough for my bike rear diff. Oh yeah, it's worked it in. And will it rise up again? Yes it will. Cool, that'll do then. One for good measure. Done. Groovy. We're finished. Bikes and drones, you can give me a call now, we'll go for a ride. Alright, thanks for joining me. No doubt you will see maybe the next video of dumping the clutch. Now I'll take it easy for a little bit, but it should be right. Cool. Don't forget to wash your bike afterwards, just get rid of all the excess grease and grime and all that sort of stuff. Awesome, thanks for joining me. Ride safe out there, and I'll speak to you soon. Don't forget to go over all your bolts, just make sure you tighten them all properly, because you want to make sure your nuts are tight, hey? Unless you don't have any. Alright, bye all. In 3, 2, 1, now. In 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, now. Now I'm wearing gloves. I don't normally wear gloves because, well, it's a waste. You can wash your hands, where gloves you got to throw in the bin. So you just manufactured something that was stupid. Dietliff or Dietliff? Dietliff Moller, I think it is. Anyway, let me know how I pronounced it, whether I'm right or not. But the GPZ is uncovered. Just for you. Check out Dietliff's, he's only got a couple of videos, but he's got a GPZ 600 as well. You'll be able to see what mine should look like. So go check out that video. And by the time you get back, I should be finished.